Welcome back. This is stream number 31 in a series where we are programming an NES game from scratch live on Twitch. I have wasted almost 10 minutes trying to figure out why Twitch is not giving me the usual stats that it does when I am streaming. So I'm going to jump right in and figure out what we need to do here today for our programming. So, when we last left off, we had the asset tool loading the information from tiled, and that information was being converted over to load in the game, and we had actually gotten it all working the way that we wanted, where we were actually loading and scrolling through the level correctly. So if I run through here, you can see we still have our status bar, which isn't being populated with anything, but our name table is being updated as we scroll. And so this map is now being loaded properly based on the metatiles that are in the map here in tiled. So that was pretty exciting because now it meant we have a way of building our maps and then converting it over for the NES. Obviously there are still some things that were done as kind of shortcuts that we're going to need to address, but one of the things that I wanted to do while we were still working on this was I wanted to make it so that the asset tool allowed you to scroll through the map, because right now when you click on it, it's just loading the top part of the map in. So I want to figure out what we can do to make that scrolling happen. Also, I'm pretty sure, if I recall, I'm just loading those metatile sets into memory when we start up rather than actually reading it from the map file. Let's see. So yeah, so the metatile list is being loaded in when we start up. We have a 32 by 32 black metatile that we're creating, and then we've got the other two metatiles that we are loading in manually. So let's see, what do I want to do here first? I want to see if so we've been using Tiger to get the information about the mouse. I want to see if there is anything about scrolling. Wiki. Is there anything in here? There's a hello world. There's a demo. Alright, let's be nice if we could get the scroll wheel information from Tiger. Well, NS other mouse, all that stuff is these events would be Mac OS. Scroll, is it scroll lock probably? Let's see. So this is giving us the left, middle, and right button. We have the Windows V key, key down, key held. The reason I want the scroll is because I just want to use the scroll wheel on my mouse to scroll up and down rather than coding up some scroll bars. Let's see. That's the win proc. We may just end up adding that. Let's see here. so let's do this. Let's look at get async key state. So VK L button down. If you go look at that. These are the virtual keys that Microsoft defines. Let's see if we can look in MSDN and see if we can find how you read the scroll wheel information. L button, left shift key. Always returns the state of the left physical mouse button regardless of whether it's mapped to left or right logical mouse button. Let's see. So that's a key state. Is there a way? I'm sure there's a way. I just don't know if it's something where it's the VK scroll. I assume that's scroll lock, which is not what we're looking for. Yep, that's scroll lock key. So let's see if there's anything else related to scroll. WMH scroll and V scroll. Wheel page scroll. Setting to scroll one page. Let's see what this is. About mouse input. Let's see. Determining the number of scroll lines. If the number is the scrolls, clicking once in the page down or page up. If the number of lines to scroll is greater than the number of lines viewable. The mouse wheel combines the features of the wheel and a mouse button. The wheel has discrete, evenly spaced notches when you rotate. Let's see. So there's actually pressing and releasing the mouse wheel sends these buttons. The mouse wheel is supported by WM mouse wheel. So obviously we're getting into some Windows programming here. But basically, the long and the short of it is if you're writing code for Windows at its lowest level, you're building a function that Windows calls, called the WinProc or the window process procedure, that gets an event, and that event tells the window what's actually happening. So it tells it, you know, hey, someone pressed a key, or we're repainting the screen, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So like WM close is Windows message that the window has been closed, and so you should probably, you know, shut down the system. So what we want to do is we want to look for the WM mouse wheel message. So just to start here, I'm just putting a breakpoint. I'm going to see if, yep, all right, so I just scrolled, you can't see it, I just scrolled the mouse wheel and we got this breakpoint, which means that it detected the mouse wheel scrolled on the window. That's good. All right, so let's close that. So let's see. Sent to the focus window on the mouse wheel is rotated. The high order word indicates the distance of that the wheel is rotated, expressed in multiples or divisions of wheel delta, which is 120. A positive value indicates that the wheel was rotated forward. All right, so let's just print the value that it's being sent, right? So be able to see, what is that? Is that W param? That's W param. So W param is telling us how much the rotation actually is, if it was in a positive or negative direction. But that's the high order word. The low order word indicates whether various virtual keys are down. Don't really care about that. So what we want to do is we want to shift this by 16 bits, because the high order word is going to be the highest 16 bits, the low order word are the lower 16 bits. So I just want to see what it's actually sending over if I do like one mouse click. Where's my console window here? So seems to be mostly that we're getting. Oh, and that's, yeah, so that makes sense. So that would be negative. So like if I said short. Let's see here. Just want to make sure that should be a negative 120, I assume. Yeah. Okay, cool. So basically we're getting 120 and negative 120. So if I scroll down, with the mouse, I'm getting negative 120. If I scroll up with the mouse, we get 120. So that is the information we want. And what I want to do is I want to figure out a way that Tiger can give us that information. Let's see. So let's stop this here for a second. See how it's doing. So here we're basically going to be just looking at, you know, what it's using to pass information back, essentially, so that it kind of fits in the way that you would expect. It's interesting. So for the mouse, it's not using, for these calls, it's just getting the asynchronous key state. It's not actually looking at the event for it, and then it's returning in the buttons. So what I want to do is I want to do this. I want to say have an optional parameter called scroll, and say, okay, if scroll, meaning we got an actual value here for this, except this may not work because it's C, which doesn't have optional parameters, but we'll deal with this in a second. Let's see, where is there any sort of storage that he's using for any of this stuff? There is a structure for internal things. So I think what I'll do is I will add something called like last scroll. Well, yeah, and last scroll, and so let's see. So okay, so he's populating his internal structure here by using this Tiger internal cast or conversion. Or what is this? This is a function that's returning. Okay, so he's just getting the structure back. All right, so let's do this. So if when, then I don't need to print this anymore. I just want to say when last scroll equals this, and then get rid of that print statement. Notice you had something called last char. When does he reinitialize that? Let's see. After it's red. So basically, we'll do a similar thing, which is that we will not really crazy about that. Only because then we will end up losing some scroll values. Yeah, so this is not, so this is going to break stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So let's do this. So we'll make one version with that signature. We'll make one version without that signature. Take this out. And this we'll call this one. Oh. I need that. I always forget the rules about the naming and stuff in C versus C++ because it's been a while since I've done just straight up C. What is the problem now? Expression preceding parenthesis of apparent call must have pointer to. It's a pointer for tiger internal. Oh, it's not a function, it's a... So is this a problem still? Yeah, okay. I thought so. Alright. So we have this extended version now that we can call, and that will allow us to get our scroll value. I guess what I want to do is I kind of want to do a plus equals and then say, okay, once we've read it, our last scroll is 0. And the only reason I wanted to do that is because I want to make sure that we are, like if you scroll a few lines, I want it to actually increment to, you know, however many lines that is, versus, you know, just saying, okay, we scroll one down no matter how many times it scrolls in the interim between checking. So let's see. So we probably want to create a new GUI component here to handle this scrolling, because right now what we're doing is if we have a map selected, it is... Where is that? So basically, if the map is selected, it is doing a blit to a map image and then drawing that as just a straight up image, and what we want is like a scrollable image, so that it will also keep track of, that we have a way of keeping track of where we've scrolled to. And then And we also want to make sure that we're not drawing... We still want to blit to this image, but we don't want the image to be bigger than the actual image we're going to draw onto in the window. And then we don't want to render the entire map into that. We want to render just the section that actually makes sense, that's actually going to be displayed. So let's see. Now the problem is how would we do this in the way we want here? I guess it would be that there's some sort of map scroll Y offset that we store. Let's do this. Let's add this first. So we're going to do scrollable image. And then actually, you know what? We're going to call this, it's different. It's not really a scrollable image. It's like a canvas that we're drawing the image onto that's scrolled into a particular position. So let's call this a canvas, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take an image in, and then we're also going to take a scroll X and a scroll Y. The reason I'm working on this versus something else is I want to be able to, really see the map 100% before we start messing with some of the other data that needs to be loaded and dealt with in terms of the metatiles. I guess I could have done that too, but, you just kind of work on what makes sense at the time and what you're interested in actually working on, because sometimes you don't feel like working on necessarily the logical piece, or I shouldn't say that this isn't logical, but sometimes you want to switch around between components, and since I'm working on this by myself, I have the luxury of being able to do that without it disrupting anything, versus like when you're working on it with a team where it might cause problems later on, because people are working on different parts of it and you don't want to kind of step on their toes or anything like that. Alright, so enough of that rambling. Actually, we need a width and a height, right? And so, okay, if we don't have a node, then let's see. I'm going to initialize our control node. Just doing the usual initialization steps. We need to add some stuff here, so we need to say, okay, this is a canvas, and then canvas is going to have its own data, which is going to consist of essentially the image that it is using to display what we're trying to display, whatever portion of the image we're trying to put on the window with the scrolling at that given time. So let's see. So this is scroll data. No, canvas data. And I guess we can... I guess we could put the scroll information into that and then let it handle the scrolling. I originally was going to do it outside, but I think that it... I mean, I prefer that it did it... So let me go back to this, and I'm not going to pass in the scroll X and Y. I am going to still pass in this other data. All right, so let's see. Canvas data, image. So there's our image. We don't have any scrolling yet. Trying to think of what else we need to initialize here. The image being the most important thing. I think that's the only other thing is to add the renderer, which is render canvas, which we haven't written yet. Add control node, current context node, and then so then what we want to do is we want to say tiger mouse ex. Why can't it find that? Oh, you know why? Because it's probably because it's not in the header. Okay. So we have our main window, our we really don't care about the mouse X or Y, but that's fine. Mouse buttons and mouse scroll. So MX, MY, MB, MS. So we've gotten that set up here. Actually, you know, we don't probably, I don't know that we want to do it. Well, yeah, it would be for the main window because the main window is what's going to get the event. All these other images are probably not going to. All right, so let's see. Sorry, I got distracted by my Twitch window up there. So we got that, and then I guess we just want to set the scroll Y at this point. So node, canvas, data, scroll Y plus equals MS. So we're just going to add the scroll value directly, and we can tweak what the sensitivity of that is later. So here we're going to add our renderer, void render, canvas, control node, node. Oh, you know what we didn't do? We didn't, we have that image that we actually need to draw onto our main image, source image. So that needs to be there. So render canvas, well, let's do this, canvas. Node canvas data source image equals image. Okay, render canvas. All right, so now at this point we're going to just render the image into the canvas, offsetting by whatever the scroll X and Y are. So this should be pretty straightforward. So we're saying we're rendering onto our main image from our source image, and we are going from destination to destination 0, 0, and the source destination is going to be node canvas data. I'm going to alias this because we're using it heavily. So let's say this, we are doing data and data scroll X, data scroll Y, and then the width and the height are going to be the node width and node height. So we want to get exactly the width and the height of the destination canvas and offset by the scroll, and then once we do that, we're going to blit to current context data image. I think that's right. Oh no, it's node layer. Node layer. The question I have, because it's been a while since I looked at this, is does initialize that set the current layer? It does. Okay. So in theory, too few arguments. Oh, right. We've got to do this whole business again. Destination is node X, node Y, source X is 0, 0, and then node width and node height. All right. GUI canvas must return a value. Sure does. Although, I don't know what that value would be, so I'm going to say it doesn't need to. And map buffer size. Okay. So now at this point, similar to what we were doing, where is this? Similar to what we were doing here, we want to still draw, and why can't I find it? Here it is. We still want to blit the metatiles to the main. Well, we don't want to do to the image. We want to do. Well, yeah, we want to. Okay, so right, we want to do it to the that current image, and then use the canvas instead of the image to draw it, so that it is map image, not current image. We want to draw into that and then use canvas essentially instead, because that will make it scrollable in theory. We can leave it just as it is right now. Let's see. All right, so that's not terrible. It actually partially worked. Let's see. So I suspect can you do fill? Yeah, so tiger fill, map image 0, 0, map image width, map image height, black. So we just want to fill that with black every frame. let's see. So this is just changing the scrolling. Let's do this. I'm going to hit a breakpoint, and then I want to get out of here. And then I want to print this value and see what the actual scroll value looks like. Oh, I forgot a new line. Okay, so it's like it's way negative. All right, so we probably need to scale this down a little bit because it's maybe a little too twitchy. So let's do that. Let's change. I'm actually going to change this to divide by 120, since we know that that's the increment that's using. And let's see if that makes it work a little bit better. Okay, so that's scrolling a little bit more like I expected. Now, obviously, this is painfully slow. We'll adjust. Now, it looks like the other problem is it's not it's not redrawing. That's weird. Why? So we're getting to the end of Oh, right. Okay. No. That makes sense. That makes sense because what's happening is we're looping through the map and drawing sections, but we're not actually doing anything to change which portion of the map we're rendering onto the map image. And so basically, once it gets to the top or the bottom, we're just getting nonsense, basically. It's all right, so let's see. So what we probably need to do is we probably need to do the following, which is a little counterintuitive, but we want to do this. We want to say, okay, this is actually going to return back the scroll Y. And this is okay. I keep trying to make this a function. This is okay because this is immediate mode drawing. And so essentially, it doesn't actually render anything to the final output until we call our finalizer, essentially, which is the GUI end, where then it starts doing the updates to the screen. So here we're just kind of setting up all the controls. So we can do this. We can say we want to have the canvas return back scroll Y. And then from there, we can determine, okay, so we want to say we want to start at scroll Y plus start height. Scroll Y is less than 0, and scroll Y is equal to 0 because we don't want a negative starting point here. And I wonder, do we actually need to make the canvas do what we're doing? Maybe not. Maybe the renderer doesn't actually need to do anything because now the drawing routine is offsetting it. Now it's kind of a lousy... Yeah, I'm not crazy about that. So basically what it looks like we're doing is we're saying we're returning back the scroll, and the caller is dealing with the scroll, not the renderer, which is going to work maybe if I didn't mess this up too badly. Oh no, okay. Right. Let's see. Tiger Blit, source XY. Where's the destination XY? So this needs to be, so I actually need to say start height plus scroll Y here to actually offset it. Because what's happening is it's just not rendering the tiles that are scrolled off, but it's not actually shifting the Y value, so then it's drawing off the bottom of the image. So I think this will, or not. Oh, you dummy, don't do that. I wanted to increment and assign, not just stupidly. There we go. There we go. There's our map. So that is working, but not in the way that I actually wanted it to in terms of the way the code functions. I mean, what's good is that what we're seeing is it's scrolling one metatile at a time, and that's actually the map. But like I said, what I don't like is that I kind of want the canvas to be responsible for... I guess I don't know how we would do that, though, ultimately, because the thing is that the canvas isn't responsible for drawing the material. It's the... It's not the canvas that's responsible for drawing the material, it's this loop outside. So the only way we'd be able to do this is if we could make the canvas do the drawing. So essentially the canvas is just a container that tells us what the scroll position is. I'm not super happy with that. I mean, it works, but this doesn't really make sense. The canvas should potentially be somehow handling the way the content is offset rather than simply tracking the scroll position so that the calling code knows how to offset its drawing into the canvas. I mean, it works. I'm, again, not crazy about it just because I initially thought it would work a different way, but I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time trying to figure out an alternative when this is actually fine for what we're trying to do. The only thing that's not fine is we probably want to set a... Probably want to do something like a min-max. So a bounds for... Well, but that's for... let me think. How would we do that? the problem we're having right now is now the scroll is providing a negative value, and if you scroll enough in the negative direction, then you have to scroll in the positive direction to offset until you get back to a non-negative value so that we actually allow it to scroll again, because we're not doing any negative scrolling right now. Like we're not allowing you to scroll this down past the top of the stage and have you know, no tiles here. But the problem with that is the canvas doesn't know it, so it's still allowing it to happen. Ultimately, I think I'd like to be able to tell it what the min and max X and Y are. Yeah. Let me put something in here. Largely, just large. Well, very small. Anyway, fighting semantics with myself. All right, so then if I were to do this and say, take this. Do this shape here, whatever that is, save that, export it as JSON, and yes, and there it is. Okay, cool. And that was pretty easy. And then what we should be able to do is hit the create map button. There's the shooter project. We want to go back to this and say NES asset tool. Bring this back over here. Replace. Do that. Where is the emulator? And then we'll speed this up so we don't have to watch this whole thing move so slowly. We should see the new shape in the map show up here at the end. There it is. Okay, cool. So that was pretty good. And now we can actually view the whole thing in the asset tool. That's good. All right, so now we should probably have this thing actually load the content. Have this thing load the content properly so that we are not making assumptions about which metatiles are in what position, but instead is actually able to find them. So let's do that. So if we go back and look at our, it's going to open it. Yeah. So if we go back and we look at our data here, it is defining what metatiles 1 and 2 are. It is these things. We're going to assume that the metatile names are going to correspond to the tileset names, just for the sake of simplicity. So what we need to do is we need to, in the spot where we're grabbing I'm in the wrong file. In the location where we are doing our parsing, what we need to do is we need to get the... We need to essentially do the same thing here. Let's see. So those are the width and height of the map. So now we are at a point where we have our width and height, right? What is this? This is the width and height of the layer. So what I want to do is, before we deal with any of that stuff, let's do this. This is called tile sets. So we want to make sure that we're getting an array here, like we did with the layers below. And we just want to make sure that the size is greater than 0. Right? There should be some number of metatile instances in this array. And then, similarly, we want to say, okay, token index. I want to check this to see if it is should be an object. And then once we know that it's an object, what we should be able to do is we should be able to get the ID and the source. And what I guess we need to do is actually track. Okay, so we have this structure for the metatile itself in the file. Map metatile. And basically what we want to do is we want to say the ID is whatever the ID is, and then the name is max small buffer. All right. So if it's not an object, then we're going to keep going. Otherwise, we're going to say, okay, we want the ID and then we want the source. So get property as int tokens, num tokens minus token index. The property name is first GID, and well, so we should be looking at the size. So int metatile count equals tokens, token index size, right? And then what we probably need to do is define our buffer for holding our map metatiles, map metatile. So similar to the array of images that will hold the content, the image content of the metatiles, we need to be able to have the appropriate number of entries for the metatiles that we would want to load from the map. So once we get to this point, we want to say, okay, so for int m is equal to 0, m is less than 2 metatile count plus m. And probably let's do this. Let's say int base token index is equal to token index, not token index, token index, and then what we can do here is we can even say there's a spot where we do this subtraction. We just say token index is equal to, oh, you know what? No, this is for the layer. So we actually, maybe we don't need that. I guess we don't need that. We can always unravel it. All right. Sorry, I'm just kind of backtracking here. So map metatiles m, let's say id. Come on, id. That needs to be the address of that. If that doesn't equal 0, then we're gonna, well, continue won't work in here. We'll say break. Okay, and then if get property value as string, JS code tokens tokens minus token index. What is it called? Source map metatiles m. Name doesn't equal 0. Excuse me for a second, I think I have to sneeze. Excuse me. So, I'm getting the name here. And then the max size, which is max small buffer. And that would be it for that. And then we can, and then we need to increment to the next object. So we say token index is, we're going to add tokens token index size, because the size of that token will indicate how many properties we have to skip to get to the next thing. And because this doesn't have an array, any arrays or anything, it's not really super complicated. It should just be pretty straightforward. So Wait, is that right? The object will just have the 2? Guess not, because the object will have 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's size times 2. And it's times 2 because even though it's going to say it has 2 children, each of those children has 1 element, which is the actual value. Let's just test this out and see if I mess that up. I think that's right. We didn't even get that far. All right. Oh, I spelled tile sets wrong. So size is 2. It's an object. We get the ID. What's that? First? Is that not what it's called? It is. It's first GID. Oh, yeah. Right. So I forgot. We have to offset the starting point based on the token index. ID is 1. The name is that, which is good. And then if we look at the next object, I messed that up, huh? Let's see. Tokens. Token index. It's a string with a size. Let me do this. Let me reopen this again here. All right. It's an object, and the size is 2. So if we look at tokens, token index plus 1. Index plus 1. It's a string with a size of 1. And that should be a primitive with a size 0. And it is. Size 1, 0, 5. So is it just because we need to do token index the size times 2 plus 1? I guess so, because that would make sense. Yeah, because if you look at it, it's the string and the next thing is the object. Okay, so it's just I'm off by 1. As is typical for most silly programming mistakes, off by 1. All right. Go back to that. All right, we have another object. The first GID is 2. The name is blue tile. So that's good, and then we should be done, and then we should be able to get the layers properly. The size is that. That should be an object. It is. We get our data. That should be an array. It is. Okay, so everything else up to there now looks good. All right, so now the problem is that tiled is giving us the name in escaped JavaScript. So basically we have these, they're escaped forward slashes. It's weird. Why would you have to escape a forward slash? //4. I mean, shouldn't that work? So we're escaping forward slashes unnecessarily is what I'm seeing here. If it were backslashes, then yeah. Because otherwise, it should give an error now. Yeah. That's weird. I wonder why it's doing that. Anyway, basically what we want to do now is we want to grab the name at the end, starting with the let me think about it. I mean, we could just search from the end for the forward slash, and then so that's going to give us the length. We want -1, and then a while last slash is greater than 0. If map metatiles last slash equals that break, and then obviously we need to last slash minus. Oh, name. No, none of this is right. Okay, so if we get the character, then that is where the slash is, and then it's gonna really mess. I don't remember what it will do. It should technically work okay. What we want to do is I want to copy into name, small buffer, map metatiles m, come on, name last slash +1, because we're at the slash there, and then that's not going to be right. Size and bytes, max count. I think it's, you can say truncate if I'm remembering right. So I want to copy the name starting at everything after the slash back into itself. All right, let's see if that worked, or yeah, it did work. Of course it worked. All right, so we've got that. Hey Eugene, thanks for joining the stream. So we've got the name, and then basically I'm going to rename this because I'm going to reuse this. We're going to call it char counter basically what I want to do is, now that we've gotten the name with the extension, I don't care about the extension. So what I want to do is while map metatiles m name char counter, so while it's not 0, say this is 0. So we start from the beginning. If map metatiles m name char counter equals period. We're going to make this null. 0. And then we're going to break. And now when we do this and we hit the breakpoint, we should just have the name. Assuming I didn't break something. I did. I introduced an infinite loop because I did not increment char counter at all. Important to do when you're trying to loop. There we go. Alright, so now we have the name. So when we come out of here, what we should see is that map metatiles will have gradient and blue tile, which is what we expected to see. Alright. And so now that we have that, what we want to do is we want to try and load. I guess the question is, do we want to load the PNGs directly, or do we want to load the metatile and then find the PNG? I guess they're essentially the same thing. There's no real benefit that I can think of to loading. There's no real benefit that I can think of to loading the metatile and then the PNG. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, now that we've got our well, let's do this also. When we come in here, we need to clear our map information accordingly. So let's do that. So for int m is less than or equals 0, m is less than what did we say it was? Max metatiles plus m. And then for any of the metatiles, I think this is the thing that I'm thinking of. Yeah, so m. So if any of these are not null, we want to tiger free them and then make them null. And then we also want to memset map metatiles, that array, to 0 size of map metatile times max metatiles. So we want to just zero all of that out. Metatile 0 is going to be reserved because that's going to be our unpopulated metatile. So what we want to do at this point is we want to say, okay, we've got the metatile name, so we want to again, for however many and there aren't going to be any, well, there might be gaps, so let's just loop through here and say, okay, if map metatiles m id is greater than 0, then we want to say metatiles m equals tiger image. Wait, tiger. I don't remember what did I do. Yeah, I just did a load, right? Tiger load image. And we're going to make an assumption here, which may come back to bite us later, but I think it'll be okay. We'll say that we're going to assume, so actually, then what I want to do here, I don't want to remove the extension. What I want to do is I want to rename the file extension so that we have map meta tiles m.name char counter +1 equals p. Do n. Oops. G. So let's do this. Let's no. We want to post increment. So we want to set the value, and then we want to increment char counter, and then we want it to be 0. So okay. So what we're doing is we're saying if we hit a period, go to the next character, set the extension to png null, which terminates the string. Once we're done, we're going to go here and look for those files in that current directory and load them as metatiles. And we actually want to do it not here by the index that we're looking at for the array of metatiles. We want to do it based on the actual ID, which is going to correspond. Okay, so we're done there. So now metatiles 0 is not populated. Oh, so actually that was the only thing I messed up, it looks like, which is not bad given that I'm kind of winging this a little bit in case you didn't notice. So we want to start at 1 here. We don't want to free our default 0 metatile. So now if we look at this, we should have 3 metatiles populated. We do. And it loaded. All right. I'm excited about that. That's pretty cool. So now, a couple of things. So this is, let's make sure blue tile is loaded correctly. It is. All right. So let's introduce real quick another metatile. We can, yeah. I was gonna say we could do this in Paint, but it's kind of a pain. All right, let me bring up Photoshop here real quick. No, it's not going to work because I don't have that anymore. All right, let's see if I can do this in a way that's going to work reasonably well. 32 by 32. 32 by 32. I don't care if this is actually correct for the NES right now. What I want to do is I just want to make sure that it will work when we're looking at the map and the asset tool. All right, so C projects. Yeah. It's asset tool. Tool green, we'll call this green tile.png. Very creative names, I know. Let's create a new tile set, and we'll call it green tile. And we're going to grab green tile here, and we're going to save it as, yep. And then in the map, we have green tile, and I'm going to just put it right at the top, just so we can see it. Save that, export. Did it actually just re-export it to the same thing? What did it export it as? Oh, it did. Oh, that's handy. Okay, well, I didn't know that. Cool. so I don't have to keep doing export as. Alright, so right now the map is the old map, so if I flip back, there's green tile. And there it is. Nice, okay. Now, the problem with green tile right now is that it's not an index PNG. But obviously it was able to load it and do the mapping properly. And if we, well, maybe it is an index PNG, I don't know. Well, yeah, so that didn't work. All the colors are wrong. Okay, I kind of thought that was what was going to happen. So even if it is indexed, the problem is that the color doesn't fit into this palette. And right now you don't have any ability to change the palette colors. So basically it just defaulted to 0 for everything. Oh well. But the map is now loading and it's got the right information and it's scrolling. And we can export it. And it's 10:30. So I'm going to wrap it up. Made some good progress here. Like I said in previous streams, obviously still a lot to do. Still have to handle these palettes properly because right now when we load up, we're just using the palettes that I'm hard coding in. But you know, it's scrolling, so it's working. That was challenging. We'll get the palettes loading in properly into the name table data. Let's see what else. So that would be one of the bigger points to make work in the next stream, so that we have the right colors showing up. And then we can start working on spawning things on the map. And then we can also start working on getting something in the status bar so that it's not just a black bar. That would be good. Collision detection, since obviously there's no collision right now with the walls. What else? I mean, quite a few things, right? So no shortage there. And then I was thinking about what I want to do with the game itself, and I have to look and see if there are any shooters that are doing this currently, but I was thinking, you know, most shooters you're just kind of you know, you're moving around and firing as quickly as you can to take out as many enemies as you can, and they're firing back and, you know, trying to destroy you with as many bullets as you can. I'm wondering if we could do something kind of the opposite, like you're rewarded for your accuracy rather than your just how much you destroy. So on the one hand, you obviously want to destroy as many things as possible, but the other side of it is it keeps track of how many times you fire, and if you fire too much, you actually lose points for inaccuracy. I don't know how we would balance that. I'm still kind of in the idea is in its infancy, but I thought that would be kind of interesting and neat to research. I'm sure there's got to be a shoot 'em up that is doing that right now. Thanks, Eugene. Yeah, it's finally starting to really come together, and the tool is, you know, going to facilitate kind of moving things back and forth between the, you know, tiled and PNG and stuff like that. So I'm excited. Galaga keeps track of those stats. Okay. I mean, like I said, I got to research how that would affect your score and what that actually means for the game itself. But, you know, trying to figure out something that'll make it fun to play, and then see how that impacts the design of the levels. So Anyway, like I said, I'm going to wrap this up for tonight, and I'm excited to get on to the next part of this with the palettes. That should be our next technical challenge on the NES, and we'll see if my choice for 32 by 32 metatiles pays off like I think it should for the palette updates. As always, follow me on Twitter at Clairvis. I try to post updates for what we're doing on the stream. I post the videos, the recordings of the stream on YouTube. Feel free to comment on those recordings. I'm on the Nintendo Age Discord, and anytime you can join me live is great. We actually hit 150 subscribers on YouTube watching the videos, which is exciting. I'm glad to see that people are getting something out of this, and hopefully I'll keep putting out good content that people like. I'm still working on the shorter version of some of these concepts, just because, yeah, I'm busy, so putting together videos is tough when you're doing voiceover and recordings and stuff like that. I'm rambling now, so I'm tired. I'm done. I will see you Monday. Well, actually, no, I won't see you Monday because Monday is a holiday. I will stream on Tuesday after the Memorial Day holiday here in the U.S. But I'll do that stream at 9 p.m. like I always do, and I will catch you then. Have a great weekend. And again, yeah, see you Tuesday.